Hello, you're watching Anderson Community Television. I'm your host, Kyle Densler, for this special December Christmas edition of Anderson Speaks. We want to welcome you all. We hope that you are enjoying the throes of the holiday season and that your spirits are merry and festive, just like ours. Let's get on with our first guest. With me here is Miss May Hanna.
Hi.
How are you, May?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. We heard you really liked Christmas, so we really did it up here. And it's all just for you. We hope you like it.
Thank you. It's beautiful. The set looks beautiful today.
So, what do you want to share with us today? Are you here to sing Christmas carols? Or
Yeah. I've got a band that's coming
Really?
in. Yeah, so that's a big surprise because I know you like music.
What's the name of the band?
The Yuletide.
The Yuletides. I knew that. I knew that. I love them. Okay, you are a member of the team here.
I am.
A member of the ACTV family.
I am.
Like myself, you get on here and pontificate for hours and hours and torture people at home. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
You are a host like myself. So how did you come to be a guest host or a host on Anderson Community Television?
Well, it was about 5 years ago. I came in, I work at UC Claremont College. I'm in charge of all the marketing and PR there. And I came in, I believe, with our athletic director and one of our coaches for our team. And so we set up the interview with Nikki. And so it went really well. And as most PR people do, we're in the background. And so we come in and we set things up and we send the questions and get everybody ready. And then we stand back in the background and talk or watch while everyone else, you know, is in the spotlight. And that's kind of our job. And so I was talking to Nikki after the show and she said, you know, you should really consider doing this show. And Nikki Bishop is one of the producers of the show. And so a person we all know and love.
Basically like the glue.
Right. And so she talked me into it, into doing a show about UC Claremont College. It's called College Connection.
Awesome.
And I've been doing it since then.
Now, what was your signing bonus? I got a 10-speed.
Right. I think I might have gotten the bell on that, 10-speed.
That's where it she promised a bell and I never had it, so that's where it went.
Yeah, that's it.
So I had a similar experience. I came in to be on the show, and then she's like, "Man, you can just really talk. You can talk." And she did a little dance when she said it because everyone knows Nikki Bishop dances all the time.
Right.
And she asked me to come on and host, and it has been a blast ever since. And I get to do fun things like this. So
That's
I think this is
awesome.
my 22nd year hosting.
Is that right?
It feels like it's only been 5. It's amazing. So share with everyone your connection with the area and also your background.
Sure. So I'm a native of Cleveland, Ohio, and moved down here. Well, I actually moved here from San Diego 15 years ago and came to Cincinnati. My sister lives here, and my brother-in-law, her husband is from Cincinnati. And so my immediate family ended up relocating here. My mom and dad came here, I came here, my younger sister came here, and which is kind of odd, but one person moved and we have a really close-knit family, and then the next person was my mom and dad, and then I moved, and then our younger sister moved here.
Relocation via osmosis.
That's
Just
right.
Those are some
That's right.
tangible family bonds you got there.
That's right.
That's
And
awesome.
so we all moved to Cincinnati, and I live right here on the east side of town. I'm in Claremont County.
Okay.
And I have 2 boys, 18. One turned 18. He's a senior in high
Really?
school. Really?
Get out of here, sister.
Yeah,
No, that's
really. Yeah. So, and I have a 14-year-old who's in middle school.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's 4 years difference. How are they as far as relationship?
They have a great relationship. It's a perfect distance as far as, and they're boys. So mothers and fathers of both genders know boys tend to be a little easier at this age. They respect each other and their space, and there's not a whole lot of arguing. They're more about, you know, separate and do their own things and that kind of thing. They each go to like their own cave. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, but they get along great. They're really fun brothers. Kyle is my oldest and Will is my youngest.
Is Kyle brilliant?
He is.
Yeah, they tend to be.
They both are.
Kyle's tend to be just dripping awesome. I'm
That's
sure you guys need to
right.
go around and mop up the awesome after you
That's
watch
right.
them. As far as your background, what did you go to college for? What's your degree, and then how did you end up at UC Claremont?
Sure. I went to Bowling Green State University, so I'm a Falcon. I graduated with a degree in journalism. So I was a print journalism major, and I was a newspaper reporter and copy editor. And then I moved into PR as I was being transferred, and with the boy's dad. And so there were some different opportunities in each city that we lived in, and we lived in several cities. He was in the military.
Okay.
And so we got transferred quite a bit. And it was really cool because it was a great portable kind of degree, because it wasn't something that I just had to do in one field. I found that I could really move into public relations pretty easily. And so
Oh yeah.
one of the towns that we lived in, it was actually Meridian, Mississippi. I couldn't get a job at the newspaper. There was a hiring freeze there at the time. It was in the 90s. And I ended up getting a job in PR at the community college. And it just sort of opened up that whole avenue of PR. And I just fell in love with higher education. It was something I was passionate about. When I was doing newspaper writing, the stories I loved to write about were the things that inspired me or that I felt, connected to, which most journalists would say that was the case. So then I got in higher ed, and it just felt like it was the right fit. And so I moved from there to California, got a job in corporate PR, didn't like that as much, and then got a job with the community college there, and then came back here and worked at Gateway Community and Technical College in Northern Kentucky for 5 years, and that was a great experience. And then was fortunate enough to get a job right at UC Claremont College, doing what I love and utilizing those kind of skills 2.5 miles from home.
Awesome. Now, how long have
Yeah.
you been at Claremont College?
This is my 9th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to think. I remember Claremont College back when I was in elementary school, and just how different it is now. I
Yeah.
mean, not even considering what was the old Ford plant, but the main campus itself.
Right.
It's just NKU is very similar, but these quote unquote community colleges that some people assign a certain stigma to, they're a lot more robust. They offer so much more.
They are.
And I know a lot of people who maybe they didn't consider it, but now their kids are like just going full go because it's so robust.
That's right. That's right. It's a great place. It's actually the regional campus, one of 2 regional campuses at the University of Cincinnati, UC Blue Ash being the other. We're slightly different than a community college, only because the way we're funded and the way that we're designated. We have a lot of the same offerings there, but you can also, we also have UC offers a lot of their 4-year degree programs there on our campus or at the UC East locations. So you can easily transition as a UC student and finish your baccalaureate degree there. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
If I may, I don't think I'm being ornery with this question, but with a lot of journalism, you're going around, you're asking questions, and you're not looking for trouble, but digging up dirt, trying to find things out. Is it different being in PR? Because it seems like the PR people are the ones who they're quoting.
Right.
Do you feel like you've moved to the other side of what you were doing before, or is it all just about I'm still reporting the truth, I'm still reporting facts and just presenting it?
Right. Well, it's a good question. One of the things that I think is hugely beneficial with my background is that I understand what it's like to be on the other side.
That's awesome.
And so when I moved into PR, having been a journalist first, I understood, when they're on deadline or when an editor is looking for something specific and that kind of thing. And so I'm really cognizant of that in my job. And I think it makes me a better PR person. And you also know when a journalist is looking for more, how to handle that, or how to make sure it's fair, that they're getting the quotes that they want, or you're helping to facilitate. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about good stories and good news. I mean, sometimes there's tough stories that you have to deal with. In one of my jobs, I had a situation with and it wasn't at UC Claremont, but it was with some students cheating on a national test. And so part of my job is to just make sure we get all the facts out there and to be respectful of what they're trying to get to as well. And so it's really, at the end of the day, it's really just about working cooperatively. And I know reporters are very respectful when they know you're trying to help and you're not trying to block the information, because that's not going to help you in the long run, if that's what you're trying to do.
They tend to respect the areas you have to hold back. If they know that you're being upfront with them, they'll respect the areas you're holding back because, okay, she's holding back because she needs to, or we're not going to go there because of protection in this area. So
right.
That must be very cool.
Yeah, but most of the news that I handle is good news, and it's promoting success stories and need and that kind of thing in the area. I mean, there's so many students that we change the trajectory of their lives.
Awesome.
There's so many students that are first generation that come to us that they don't have anybody in their family that has a college degree.
Wow.
And it's really fulfilling when you can change that in someone's life and you can see that. And so it's not a hard job to be passionate about. So
we see a lot of things you love about that job. What are some of the things you love when you get the opportunity to host?
One of the things I love about hosting is a lot of times I'm hosting even talking to people on my campus or connected to my campus, or promoting something in the community. And I always feel like, and I felt like this when I was a reporter, I always feel like I come away with some new grain of information or something I didn't know. So that's the thing that I really love about hosting. And then it's fun. I mean, we sit here and we have fun with the staff here, and it's fun to get somebody with good energy, because you're energized when you walk away from that. So
yeah, I think anytime you can just have just a good conversation with folks, it's always fun, and it can be entertaining. I hope you guys feel the same. All right, we just got about a minute left.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you before we go, what is one of your favorite holiday traditions?
My parents started this tradition after we were married, and we'd come home, but they always do a huge breakfast with kids and family and everybody on Christmas morning. And so everybody goes over there after they've done their Christmas with their family, and everyone goes over there with their PJs on, or however they want to come over. My mom and dad make this amazing breakfast, and we eat a huge Christmas breakfast together as a family, and then we'll do gifts after that together as as with cousins and aunts and uncle and that kind of thing. So it's probably my favorite tradition for Christmas.
Just food everywhere.
Food everywhere. Gosh. I come from a big Lebanese family. It's lots and lots of food.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
We want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's
and we
my
want to wish you and
pleasure.
your family Merry Christmas.
Same to you. Merry Christmas to you.
Okay, and we'll be right back with our next guest. Welcome back to this Christmas edition of Anderson Speaks. My next guest is a very special one. We've actually never sat together, but he has sat in my spot on several occasions, and we now have verified that we each do, in fact, exist. With me is Dick Murgatroyd, a Cincinnati broadcasting legend. Dick.
How are you? Good to see you, finally.
Nice to finally meet you, sir. It's an honor. Before the taping, I referred to your telephone book of a resume. You have a rich history here in Cincinnati with broadcasting. We were discussing my background, my minuscule background in broadcasting, but enough to be very interested in yours. So I'd love to just turn it over to you. Tell us how you got started. Tell us about some of the things you helped innovate, what news and broadcasting was like in Cincinnati when you were running the show.
Well, I actually started in high school by accident, because there was a radio station that opened up just up the street from where I lived in Cambridge, Ohio. And I used to hang out there just because I was intrigued. Now, this goes back in the 50s, so It's in the Stone Age. So I kind of hung around, and the more I hung around, the guy said, if you're going to hang around, you might as well do something. And so he had me started. I started writing news copy, and then the next thing I started doing was actually doing the news on the air.
Huh.
And but I really had no plans on going into broadcasting. My dad had great plans of me being a doctor.
Wow.
And so anyway, I graduated from high school and went to Ohio State University and started out sort of in a pre-med program, because my father was happy about that. But I also, at the same time, got a job at the radio station, WSU Radio. And then television came along, and they opened up the TV station at OSU.
Wow.
And so they sent us over there and said, you're going to now be in TV. And so we learned television from the ground up and did everything there was to do. We ran camera, we did lighting, we were on the air, we produced, we directed. None of us knew what we were doing, but we did it and had a good time doing it. So I really fell in love with it. I just really fell in love with it. So I finally decided I was going to make that my career. And my father never did figure out what I did. He could never figure out what that was all about. But anyway, so I was very fortunate. Good time to be there. It was early 50s and late 50s. And so television was really kind of getting started. And so I had great opportunities to do all kind of things. And that kind of got me going. I got off into the sports field and did sports for a number of years as a director. Enjoyed that a lot, but I traveled a lot. I had to do a lot of travel because I did football and I did basketball. And then at Ohio State, they kept me on at Ohio State after I graduated. And I started the instructional television on the campus.
Wow.
And we began doing instructional TV for basic classes, freshman classes. And so we started doing that. My first ones were doing surgery at the medical school. We taped surgery so that they could play those back. Actually, at that time, they were, it was kinescope because we didn't have tape. But so we did the surgery so they could use them for other classes. And then we did dental school, and then we did a lot of general programming. And we also began instructional programming at the elementary school level in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
In fact, we were the first, I like to say we were the first satellite TV, which really wasn't in existence, but there was a DC3, and when tape came along, we put tape machines in that DC3, and we flew that over Michigan and Ohio and Indiana, and we fed signals by microwave back to schools in those 3 states.
Wow.
And so they could pick those up on TV and use those instructional programs as part of their package. So we were kind of the first of it was called MPATI, Midwest Airborne Television, Educational Television. It was unusual. It didn't last long because, of course, when the weather was bad, there was no TV because the guy couldn't take off. But I was very fortunate. I was in a great time and when television was just starting and back in before tape and everything was live. And I ended up actually at WLW in Columbus when they started doing live morning shows, which were much like the morning shows that they did here, which were sandwiched in between Paul Dixon and Ruth Lyons. And I produced and directed the show on WLW television there. And then I was transferred down here in the 60s, in the late 60s, and finished Ruth Lyons, and her director and producer went on to Westinghouse, and so I came down and filled in, and then did the Braun Show, and I also directed Dixon and Hayride, and we were involved in getting Donahue started, which was a big deal for WLW.
Wow.
And became the signature syndicated program, which then became live all over the country with Donahue. So I always at the right place at the right time, and had a good time. Got to meet a lot of great people along the way, and had a good time. We really that was a great era for TV, and especially in this market, because this market pioneered. Pal Crosley was a true pioneer in broadcasting, and he started almost, I mean, WLW was the first television station in this market and in many markets. And he was the pioneer. He's the guy that really started it all. And the fact that we owned 4 stations, which was unheard of, within 100 miles of each other, and had our own network. And so we sold Dixon, and Ruth Lyons and Bob were all sort of considered regional network shows. So all the commercials on those shows were all national commercials and not local commercials. And at one time, out of Crosley Square, we originated 3 live 90-minute television shows every single day out of that station.
Wow.
9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 4 o'clock, and then Hayride on the weekends. So a lot of history, be part of all that, and I'm grateful that I was there then. I was, and we had a good time doing it. We really did. We liked each other. We had a good time. We enjoyed it, and the audience in this market is a terrific audience. They still are. They're still a good audience.
It's amazing to hear even introduction or just glimpses of this. I think about more modern technologies like the internet or even like YouTube and people who were early adopters of that and what they were able to do. And you guys were at an even bigger junction, so to speak, with the advent of TV. It's just amazing to be at ground zero of such a influential and important technology.
It was, because a lot of things happened during that era. I mean, we went from, videotape came along, which was refined, and we went from black and white to color. I remember doing football, early days of football when color came in. We had to dye the fields, the grass, because of the color pickup, the cameras. And of course, in the day games, we would have to shut down cameras because when the shadows came over the field, we have to shut a camera down and realign it in order for the color to be able to fix the color in it. So a lot of things, and now you look at it. I mean, I watch it just in awe because of all the technology now that they use to do sports.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just blows me away. We had 4 cameras and thought that was great, and of course we didn't have playback, none of that stuff, and now you look at what they can do and it just blows my mind. I mean, I remember we did the early space shots that were done, and they went from, where the announcers filled hours with there's no pictures, to actually broadcasting pictures from the space shuttle. And when you look at all that technology, it's amazing, and it happened in a fairly short period of time.
I want to talk about live TV because I think you could call it a limitation. You had to do it live, but I feel like when you put limits on some things, it allows other things to flourish. And I feel like because of that limitation, we had some incredible personalities that were showcased. And you've already mentioned several Cincinnati personalities, but talk about some of those personalities you worked with. And real quick, I want to lament the fact that I'm 34 years old. There wasn't a huge overlap with people like Bob Braun for me, but I do remember as a kid my mom watching Bob Braun and knowing who that was and knowing who his son is now. And I think we're at that cusp of generations coming up that don't know who these people are.
I have no idea.
And just the era that created them. But what are some of the major personalities you work with? Who were some of your favorite to work with?
Oh golly, there were a lot of them. A lot of personalities came through here during that era of TV, and part of that was because there were a lot of clubs around this area where live people perform. But Jay Leno, he cut his teeth here in greater Cincinnati area. He played Sutton-Miller's in Dayton, the Beverly Hills, Lookout House, when he was just a very young comedian. And of course, went on to become very successful.
Yeah.
And a delightful guy. In fact, he every once in a while mentions the Braun Show. When Bob passed away, as a matter of fact, he did a very nice little eulogy on the Tonight Show about Bob. But because he can never get over it, in those shows, all the commercials were live. There were no tapes, no films, and no copy. It was all integrated. And in fact, Ruth, just a diverse, but Ruth, if she would come in some days and say, I don't feel like doing commercials today. So she would get up, she would get 18 ladies out of the audience, line them up, give them each a product, walk down the line, mention the product in the first 15 minutes of the show, and that was it. And we were all done. And the sponsors didn't care because they sold so many products. They sold so much product off of that show that that never bothered them. So, but the guests used to get a kick out of that because, and Leno tells a story, but he said, he said, I'm sitting there and we're talking about, why I'm in town and everything. He said, the next thing I know, I've got a package of wieners in my hand and Bob's talking about Con wieners. And he said, and I'm looking going, and then he said, all of a sudden, the wieners were gone. We were back talking about why I was in town. He said, I'll never get over that. But that's how it was.
I love that.
We integrated the spots, but we had a lot of, and people loved to come to the show because it was a very relaxed format, and they enjoyed coming. Interesting thing was we never rehearsed anything on the show because the Dixon show got off the air at 10:30. Our audience came in at 11:30. We had to switch the studio around. We would do a brief audio rehearsal with some of the music, no camera rehearsal, and get the set changed, lighting changed. So no rehearsal. And our guests that came on the show, 9 times out of 10, didn't get there until after the show started. And most of them performed. But they were confident in being on the show, and they loved being on it. And I remember our orchestra was tremendous. The musicians in this market were outstanding, still are, and to this day.
Yep.
But they could play anything. And I never will forget Bennett came in one time. Tony Bennett came in.
Wow.
And he got there after the show started, gave me the arrangements, and I took the arrangements in and handed them out to the band. He came on, we introduced him, and he did both songs. And afterwards he said, those have never been played that well before.
Wow.
So that was the kind of era we were in. So we were just used to doing it live. We never, we didn't think, we never taped it, and Ruth never taped anything because a lot of hers was before videotape. We taped segments that we kept and used on the year-end show as a highlight show. And once in a great while, we would tape a bronze show, but it was never as good as when it was live. There was an edge whenever it was live, and we didn't like taping shows because it just wasn't the same.
I think it required something of the performer, of the talent, and you get their best.
Yeah. Well,
and they have to be good at what they do to be able to do it.
It was your shot. That was it. Quick story, if you have time for it. But
we got 2 minutes left.
Is that what we got left?
I know. We're doing injustice by having such a short segment.
Quick story. We were at Kings Island. We were doing the Bronze Show from Kings Island for a week, and Dinah Shore was on the air at the time doing her afternoon talk show, and they came in to tape a show, and so they were going to use our crew. We did our show. And so the producer came up to me and he said, we're really worried about the time because he said, we're going to start taping at 4. When are you going to be finished with your show? And I said, we are. And he said, when did you do it? And I said, we just did it. He said, well, that was rehearsal, wasn't it? I said, no, that was our show. And so he just shook his head and he said, nobody does that. And I said, we do it every day. It's
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I'm grateful for all the time I had and all the good times I had.
Well, I know you have just a plethora of stories that you could share. We need to sit down again together. But before we go, real quick, what's your favorite holiday tradition?
Gosh almighty, I guess Christmas, I love Christmas, I think, because I love the music. I love the spirit of the of the time, and people are just friendly, and we spent a lot of time on Christmas during the Braun and Ruth Lyons days because it was raising money for the Christmas fund. So we started Christmas on October 4th every year on her birthday. So I don't know that, I guess that most of all it's great being with, I never had a big family I was born, my dad was a funeral director, so we didn't really make a big deal out of Christmas just because of living in a funeral home.
Wow.
But I love being just with families. I love being around families, just watching families, because that, to me, that's really what it's all about. And I think it, and I'm blessed that people take me in and make me part of their families during the holidays. But so I think it's really, I just think it's the spirit of the season, and I wish you could carry that throughout the year. Everybody tries to, but it kind of goes away after, January. But it's a great time of year.
There's nothing else to say. Dick, we're glad you're part of our family here, bud.
Good to see you, man. Thank
Same
you.
here.
My
Merry
pleasure.
Christmas.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. We have one more guest. And we are back with our next segment on this special Christmas edition of Anderson Speaks. Hope you all have enjoyed it so far. And with us, we have another member of our Anderson Community Television family. This is Carol Donahue. And Carol hosts At Your Service. And we've actually got to sit down and speak before. It's been quite a while. We were just discussing.
Almost 5 years ago, I came with the Anderson Hills Women's Club, and you interviewed me, and I was petrified. And then when they said, would you like to come and work with us, I thought, really? But I have enjoyed it immensely. Nicest people in the world work here.
And you are welcome. I'm glad I could help launch your TV career.
That's right.
I feel like we're a platform, a springboard here on Anderson Speaks, and we've propelled a lot of people into stardom.
Well, I tell you, you couldn't have a better job than what I have. I interview the best, and our teleprompter is out of order. Chuckle, chuckle.
Technical difficulties.
So I'm going to read some of the names because I don't want to miss anybody. There's Corporal Boyman, super nice man. There's Richard Shelley, Officer Wolterman, Tom Reamer, Tom Caruso, Paul Drury, Amy Meyer, people who work for our community, and boy, they really do a great job to make this such a great place to live.
Awesome.
And I thank them for always coming and with their smile on.
I know what makes the show for me are always the guests. There's always something that's interesting. There's always something to connect with, and I find that very enjoyable.
Oh, you bet, you bet. And now we're heading towards Christmas, and things I think are slowing down a little bit here as we go into the holidays, and I know I'm looking forward to it with all my grandkids.
So tell the folks in Anderson a little bit about yourself, your background, your connections with the township, and how long you've been here.
Okay. My husband and I were originally West Siders. I'm Seton, he's Elder. We're celebrating our 49th wedding anniversary. We have 3 sons and 6 grandchildren. We got a passport and we moved to the east side, I think in 1976, and my husband was transferred with his job, and we always came back to Anderson. We've seen it grow. I just love this community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so, our kids went to school here. We were equal opportunity. One went to McNick, one went to Turpin, and one went to Anderson.
Wow.
So,
how did that happen?
well, we moved at one point, but one of them really wanted to go to McNick, so he did that. And, so whatever floats your boat. And if you do well, that's great.
And how'd they turn out? I mean, we got all these different test tubes we put them in.
They're all fine. They're all good dads, and they're good husbands, and I think that spells success.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you have any? You mentioned some folks from your show that you've interviewed. Do you have any special memories or specific things that have stuck out to you that you've really enjoyed?
Well, I do remember when Officer Wolterman brought the huge dog in, and the dog was chewing on a plastic ball, and the ball went up in the air and landed down right by my foot, and this dog opened this massive, mouth, and I pulled my foot back trying to talk to him and, not act concerned. But, I thought that was just such an interesting story. And the other dog had retired, and that dog stayed with Officer Wolterman and his family. And I thought, wow, very interesting. And then I've done some specials, too, with local authors and some physicians and just, all the people in Anderson have a story.
Well, how do you keep yourself busy when you're not here interviewing folks?
Well, a few months ago, I worked at the Polls. No, not a month, about a month ago at the Polls. I'm a member of St. John Fisher Parish in Newtown, and I'm on a couple committees there. And I'm a would-be writer, so I just finished a creative writing class at UC, and I belong to a writers group, and we meet at Rookwood Joseph Beth.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm doing that, and just, you know, I'm busier now. I retired a year ago. I was a real estate agent for many years, and life is good.
As a creative writer, what sort of things are you exploring?
I'm doing a semi-autobiographical piece about, I don't know if you ever read the book Olive Kitteridge, but it was one of the first book of short stories that actually made the New York Times bestseller list. And I had an interesting story. My father was in the military. I was 6 months old. My mother died, and the Red Cross had to bring him home, and then he had to go back. And
Wow.
what happened, you know, and I have a German connection. My stepmother then was from Germany, and you know, it's kind of had some interesting things happen.
Your stepmother was from Germany.
And I was a 5-year-old taking her to naturalization classes, and she had German friends, and I had to learn the language because it was easier for me to learn it. So I would take them to restaurants after the classes, and I would order because they couldn't speak English.
Wow.
So it was called maybe growing up a little faster.
I bet.
Yeah.
Usually we do that for siblings. That's an interesting twist.
Yeah, there were times where sometimes I felt maybe like I was the parent, you know, but she was a great lady, and anybody that raises someone else's child, I think deserves a special pat on the back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's your German?
Nicht so
day?
gut. No, it was a dialect called Schwäbisch, and that's what we spoke in the home. And I've been to Germany. I went to school in Germany for part of the 5th grade as a little cultural thing going there. And I was very fluent, and now I haven't heard it in so many years. Like, my husband doesn't speak German, so after 49 years, you kind of lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to keep flexing those muscles.
You betcha. You betcha.
We've been talking about the Christmas season that's upon us, and you and I were discussing some of your plans and how, you know, I'm at the stage in my life where we've kind of been doing the same thing since I was a kid, but you know, the logistics of the holidays may be changing, and this year's going to be something new for you, isn't it?
It is. We move up the ladder. We are now the oldest generation, and so the only thing is we're still making all the dinners. So it's like I thought we would be going to their house at this point in my life, but I do enjoy it. You know, the 6 grandkids, and I have nieces and nephews that come, and you know, we celebrate. It's a party atmosphere. We have a good time, and we try to do a little bit extra things like everybody else does for those who are less fortunate. And I think that is such an important part of Christmas, is helping someone else.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of helping someone else, if you're one of Carol's sons, if you could bring a dish, that'd be great.
I am so glad you said that. Boys, are you watching? Bring a dish. And I don't mean your wife. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so then we're now, my husband's retired, so we come here, I hang out here, and we go away. We take lots of trips. I've never been to Nashville.
Really?
Oh my gosh, it was great.
What a cool town, isn't it?
Oh, I loved it. And then we went to the Biltmore. I think that's
Wow.
our Downton Abbey.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
and I love that. And we're going to Florida, and then we're going to Hilton Head.
Wow.
And our next year is our 50th, and we're going to Paris.
I'm jealous. That's awesome. I went on this whirlwind educational tour in college. We were 4 weeks. We started in London and ended up in Athens. So I got to see a lot of these places. I got to see parts of Germany and Switzerland and Italy. But my gosh, I want to go back so bad and just spend some time there. If I have to wait until we're retired, that's fair. But it'd be awesome if it would be a little sooner.
Well, our dream is, when we were in Europe a couple years ago, we found this little town. It was called Munden an See, and it was between Vienna and maybe Budapest. And it was on the rail line, and I thought, wow, if we could go and maybe spend 6 months here and just absorb the culture
Yes,
and whatever,
yes.
that would be so cool. But I don't know who's going to take care of my plants for 6 months.
Oh,
You want to stop by?
I'm sure I will start a business for retired folks who want to travel. and we'll just take care of
You're
plans.
such an entrepreneur.
Anything that gets me there faster. That'd be
Good,
great.
good.
I remember, I forget the name of the English town. You would recognize it, but I'm going blank. But we'd been in London for 3 days, our only experience, and then we get to this little town. We stop in real quick on the bus, and I was like, "This is," when I think in my head, Europe. This is what I think. And then Heidelberg was the same. We were in Munich, and we were in Salzburg, and we'd been to Mount Pilates, and Mount Pilates. Yeah, we went up on a hill and we stretched.
Did Pilates.
But yeah, but that afternoon, 2-3 hours even, we spent in Heidelberg, right there on the foothills of the Black Forest. I was like, this feels like the place you'd want to kind of just relax for a while, and like you said, just let it seep in, see what it's like, get a real experience of living there.
And I think that's what life's about, experiencing what you can, taking what life has to offer, and just, keep healthy so you can continue to do the things that you like. And I know this past Thanksgiving, my husband and I said, wow, we do have a lot to be grateful for, to be thankful for.
Awesome. Yeah. And one quick note about Nashville. What I love about Nashville is that it's become this center for music and other things, but it hasn't necessarily become over commercialized. There are still the genuine, the organic little like small things like the Bluebird Cafe and other places like that where they've stayed true to what they are, and it's still this neat thing to go and experience. It hasn't become overdone or overproduced.
Well, the next thing we're going to do is, having been there, we're going to go to Memphis, and we're going to have to see where the king lived.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we can't miss that. So there's so many neat places to go and to travel to and soak up the culture.
Awesome. Now, with your roots in Anderson and having been here so long, what do you think makes Anderson so special?
The people. The people do. I mean, it's just any one of like the Hamilton County sheriffs, you could stop them. They can't do enough to help you. Fire and rescue, just great people. Richard Shelley out there with his men salting those roads and whatever. They all just do a great, great job. I think we're fortunate here. We have a great school district. We're close to the airport. We're close to town. And I think zoning is planning on, even a more, little town feel here. And I think the mall, or the town center, excuse me, what they call it now, it's sort of a nice little gathering place. That's where the 4th of July parade winds down. And it's just it's a good place to be.
Is there anything you would like to see added or become part of some of the traditions we have here in Anderson?
Well, there is one thing. I just talked to Paul Drury about this not too long ago. I would love to see people that are like my age not have to go out of the community if they want to downsize. And I know it's been in the paper, there is some properties available, and I really wish they would consider a small community of patio homes for us empty nesters, so we wouldn't be adding more kids to the school district and whatever. And so people could stay here longer and not have to go, because people are moving, like I said, to Legendary Run, to Mason, and keep the good people here.
It's a
I
great
would like
idea.
to see that.
Just keep that community intact.
You betcha.
I like that.
You betcha.
All right, we are out of time, but before we go, just want to ask you, what is your favorite tradition that you get to experience every year at Christmas?
What I love the most is watching the grandkids opening their presents. They have such this pure joy and emotion, and it makes all the work worthwhile. So I do enjoy that. We have 6, and the twins are 17, and the youngest, Zoe, is 18 months.
Wow.
So we have them all ages, and they're just a great group of kids,
Awesome.
as are your kids.
Well, thank you for sharing, Carol. Thank you for coming on the show, and Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you too, Kyle.
All right. Typically, we'd be done, but we're actually going to be back with a special segment. I think we're going to be switching seats here.
You don't say.
Gonna turn the tables on me.
Well, nobody told me.
I don't get to talk enough, I guess. So
Can't wait.
We'll be right back with that.
Hello, welcome back. Notice anything different? We've kind of exchanged roles here. Now I get to be the one asking the question, to our interviewer extraordinaire, Mr. Kyle Densler. Hello, Guy.
Hello, lady.
Well, tell me, what does Kyle do when he's not here doing Anderson Speaks?
Wow. Well, I do have a job.
Good.
I do have a job. I've been with in Macy's Credit and Customer Service for, in April it'll be 2 years. So, yay, job security. I started there doing stuff on the phones, selling kind of big ticket items, and just in the nick of time, personality-wise, I was able to get off and move into what's called our Learning and Development Department, where they handle training materials, facilitation. But I get not to say anything against anything else in learning development, but I think we're the funnest group. We're called e-learning, and I came in. One of the main things we were doing was developing computer-based training modules, things like that, and we've moved a lot towards video production. And my undergrad degree is in broadcasting, and then I have a master's I got from NKU in teaching. So it's really neat to be able to pair those together, to kind of marry them in what I'm doing with the production side, but also doing it to educate people. Not everything I do is education-based per se, or I'm not creating content, but it's cool to be able to document and make available some of the training we have. Or we have these things called employee resource groups. One's called Live Healthy. One's called Reach. It's about personal and professional development. So I take a lot of pride in being able to make that available for other people in the building, and it's really interesting. I have a awesome team that I work with, and a lot of support, and I get to do some really cool things that it's really awesome to wake up in the morning, and some days you're really excited to actually go into work, which that's a big deal. But sometimes I think for some people to not even mind going in would be a big deal.
Oh.
And I don't mind going in. I mean, sometimes I hate the drive. I don't hate people from Loveland, but I wish people from Loveland weren't allowed to drive on 275. That would make my life.
Hope you're not watching from
Just
Loveland.
between 6:30 and 9:30, and then 3:30 and 6:30. I just proposed that ban the other day.
Well, you know, looking back, you interviewed me like we talked about before, and then right after that, I ran into you at a restaurant, and you had this darling little girl with you. And fill us in on what's happened with your family.
Well, I may have shared this different times, but my wife and I met on the island of Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, I've been there.
It's beautiful, beautiful. Now, we were there in the off season, so I missed some of the craziness and really what kind of people know about it. But well, I'll go back, I'm never a Reader's Digest kind of guy. I'm going to give you the whole backstory. But I went to Milligan College in East Tennessee, started as a music major, wanted to be a singer. And then they were going to start a track with the communications department where I would get to focus on working in studios, kind of the technical side of the music industry. And then as far as the music department was concerned, I was going to get to focus a little more on contemporary performance and theory, but still with that classical foundation, which is the best. But I don't want to call them fuddy-duds, but the music department was like, oh, it's too new, or it's too different, or we're not ready yet. So I ended up just being a broadcasting major, which was a blast. Got to do video, got to do radio. And what's odd, as much as I like doing video, it was some of the radio spots that I got to do that were the most fun for me. Just kind of creating with sound these visuals in people's minds. It was a blast. But there's a group, Coalition of Christian Colleges and Universities, and there's these programs that are offered to students who go to colleges that are in that coalition. And they had a film school, journalism school, political, there's just a lot of different things they offered. And they had just started, we were actually part of the first class of it was called Contemporary Music Center, which is now in Nashville, which they said, we didn't put this school in Nashville because we thought that would just kind of be too easy, it'd be stereotypical. Well then, trying to get on and off the island was amazingly difficult, and it just made more sense to move it there. So they're there now. But my wife, Jenny, and I were both in the first class ever, and never met each other, but met there and connected, and then began dating long distance, and she graduated from Judson College in Elgin, Illinois. Just basically, she's part of Chicago, and then she was crazy enough to move out here for me,
Yay.
We got married, so then she was stuck. Yeah, when we met, I had a daughter named Kaylin, who is now 5.5. Just lost her second tooth. She's got a kind of a twisted one growing here, and then this one, she's like, the root and everything came out. She's all excited.
Keeps the tooth fairy busy.
Oh, the tooth fairy hasn't come. She's holding on to these puppies. She collects anything and everything. We find just collections of acorns and twigs and sticks and rocks and stuff in the car, and she has bags of just all kinds of stuff. Where I'm trying to think, how does this parlay into some sort of a high-paying job in the future? Like, how can we instead of fighting this, how can we work with this and then?
She could be an anthropologist.
Maybe if she did they get paid a lot? That'd be
I don't know.
great. I'm hoping to retire early, and she's going to help. So, she's 5.5, and then my son just turned 4. Elijah just turned 4 at the beginning of October, and so we've got, they're at this awesome place where they're not completely independent, but there's so much stuff they can do for themselves. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I do want more children, but there is that thing of, we're going to be back in diapers, we're going to be back in total dependency, and then we watch the Duggars, and we're like, okay, we're just going to put our kids to work. We'll just have them. I'll be like, Kaylin, it's 3:30, it's Tuesday, so it's definitely your turn to feed the baby. Get the bottle. We'll teach our kids how to heat stuff up. I'm
the
kidding.
microwave.
I'm kidding. Yeah. No, microwave's bad. Open fire is what we prefer.
Oh.
So she'll be back in the backyard in the middle of winter, but I think it builds character.
At least.
Yeah. as long as we don't get any calls by the neighbors. But family's doing great. And
are they anxious for Santa Claus to come and
oh
make a
yeah.
visit?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My daughter is constantly, I think in April she was like, I'll have to add that to my Christmas list. She's got her pink camera is what she wants. She wants to be able to take pictures. She loves designing stuff. My wife started homeschooling them this year. So my son is kind of in it. He's still kind of young, but my daughter, she focuses right now a little more on my daughter. Just because my daughter's able to focus, Elijah still very much tries to use my wife as a jungle gym sometimes while they're teaching. But she loves designing, and so my wife incorporates a lot of that in what they do. And we're going to be seeing the, I don't know I forget which ballet, not a ballet. We're either going to the ballet or the symphony this coming weekend. It's just all part of that. So it's really neat to have family events like that and experiences. But it's going to be it's already shaping up to be a busy month. December is busy.
So how does your family handle Christmas? Are you going to go to Grandma and Grandpa's?
Yeah.
You want to come to my house, you have to bring a casserole.
My wife usually brings something, so I know you'd welcome us. Growing up, we had Christmas with the 4 of us. I have a brother. I have an older half-sister who lived in Florida part of the year, but she was always with us at Christmas, and she lives in the area now. And I have awesome nephew and 2 beautiful nieces. But it was always us, and then we'd go to my mom's parents, my grandparents, grandma and papa, we called them. And then we do more stuff with my grandma's side of the family. So my brother's out of town. He's in Colorado Springs now. He's a worship pastor out there. And we still go to, my kids call her Mimi now, my grandma. And we still will go there. And I know we've been talking about different traditions. My mom always makes this, just talking about it, I've been hankering to eat it. It's this like awesome ham and cheese casserole that she kind of usually saves only for Christmas.
Is that like a breakfast?
Yes, we did a breakfast, and she makes it the night before, and it sits all night, and oh my gosh, I need to stop talking about it before I embarrass myself, and I'm wiping
Some
drool
people
off.
call that like a strata, where it's bread and you put the eggs and it soaks into it overnight, and then you bake it.
Yeah, and
Ooh,
I think
know
the
that.
eggs is part of the this. Yes,
Very
definitely,
good.
definitely amazing.
Let's just blow this pop stand and go
Let's
get
get
some
at it.
strata.
Yeah, just cut and let's just go. Hopefully someone if anyone at home has made this and has it ready for us, let me know. But yeah, it's going to be a busy season. This is my first year in corporate America. I was in teaching before. I was also did some self-employed insurance things and ran some businesses here and there with friends. I have fun doing T-shirts on the side with my friends who own blackout tees. It's a blast. We do all kinds of fun stuff. But
Feel free to get us any kind of T-shirt with
oh,
any
absolutely,
catchy little
absolutely.
sayings.
I love design. That's one of my favorite things about it. But with being when I moved from the phones down to e-learning, I got a unusual promotion. I was very blessed, and I moved to what we call executive, or as a manager, and with that, you know, my schedule opened up. I'm able to do a lot of cool things. But we have a unique thing in our building. It's called the MCCS, the Macy's Credit and Customer Service Choral Ensemble. And a man named Roger started it like 15 years ago, and for 13 years he directed it. He was the lifeblood of it, and then he left the company. And then a young manager straight out of college named James directed for 2 years and was very, very good at it. And then this last year, my wife was still working there before she quit to stand with the kids. We both tried out and got accepted into the ensemble. And then within like 2 weeks, they're like, would you like to become the director? Which is a great opportunity. I didn't exactly know everything I was getting into. If I had, I would have responded slower, but I still would have said yes. But we have a really cool thing. We have what's called the holiday choir. And it is something within our building where we have an ensemble of about 24 singers who you have to try out to be in the ensemble. But our holiday choir is a performance done by anybody and everybody who wants to be involved. And they've had numbers as, 60 people total. Right now we have about 100. They've had 125, but it's a big part of the culture in our building. And the president of our company told me, and no pressure, but the president of our company said, my second favorite day of the year and what we do culturally here in this building doesn't even come close to my number one favorite day, which is that performance. So he brings his family. A lot of people bring their families. We perform like 4 times in one day, and it'll be December 17th. And we get to take that downtown. We're going downtown to downtown Dazzle, and we're going to watch Santa hopefully safely rappel off the building, and then we get to put on a little performance on Fountain Square. And so this will be the busiest December I probably have ever had, and I know if I can survive it, then I got more in me than maybe I thought.
Well, Kyle, it sounds like you've got some busy days ahead of you.
Absolutely.
And it's been very interesting talking to you and getting to know you a little bit better, as hosts should. And what I'm going to do right now is wish you a Merry Christmas, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. From our family here at Anderson Community Television to yours, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. Thank you for watching, for sharing, for being a part of our lives, and for supporting us. Bye-bye.